revealed, an incredible billionaire's life-changing response to a shivering black girl as touching encounter. Mariah rubbed her frozen hands together, feeling the chill seep through the thin fabric of her coat. The community charity event at the downtown gallery was vibrant, filled with laughter and talk, but inside, her heart felt heavy. She glanced around at the glimmering chandeliers and the polished marble floors, feeling a stark difference between her modest apartment and this luxurious space. It was a winter night, and the snow began to fall heavily outside, blanketing the city in white, a serene contrast to the turmoil within her. She thought of her family as bills, their struggles, and how her dream of becoming an artist often felt just out of reach. As she navigated through the crowd, peering at elegant guests in designer clothes, she collided with someone, a tall man with striking blue eyes. It was Lucas Thornton, the reclusive billionaire known for his charitable contributions yet often considered cold. Their eyes locked, and for a moment time slowed. Mariah felt an inexplicable spark engulf her, filling her with warmth despite the bitter cold outside. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice nearly swallowed by the festive atmosphere. "No harm done," he replied, his tone surprisingly gentle. They both stood still for a heartbeat, and Mariah felt the weight of their worlds juxtaposed in that moment. Gathering her nerves, she shared her dreams, how she longed to create art that could inspire change, exposing the raw realities of her community. Her voice shook slightly, but the passion within her surged, drawing Lucas closer. He listened, captivated, as she painted a picture of the struggles and strength of people who often went unnoticed. "You remind me of someone I used to know," he murmured, lost in thought. The words resonated deeply with him, stirring emotions from his own past when dreaming big felt like holding sunlight in his hands. Just as their connection began to deepen, a misunderstanding loomed. He misread her determination for desperation and recoiled slightly, slipping backwards into the safety of his guarded life. Lucas internalized his conflict, churning with doubts. Those isolated moments of connection transformed into restless echoes that lingered, unsettling him. Suddenly, a loud commotion disrupted the evening. Voices rose, revealing deep-seated biases and igniting a confrontation amongst guests. As tension bubbled, Mariah found her footing, standing fiercely to defend her community. Her words rang true and bold, reverberating through the dim hall, awakening a sense of urgency in Lucas. He watched her, struck by the sheer force of her conviction. In that instant, he faced the privilege that separated him from the reality of her struggle. Would he turn away, retreating into the comfortable shadows of his wealthy life? Or would he embrace the discomfort and act? Mariah stood at the center, preparing to unveil her artwork, a canvas representing grit, pain, and triumph. It was more than art. It was a testament to her journey and the resilience of her community. Anticipation hung thick in the air. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Mariah stepped forward, poised to reveal the essence of her spirit, a sudden outburst arose at the back of the room, a distraction that threatened to overshadow her moment. All eyes turned, tension mounting. Her heart raced, and she could feel the weight of judgment in the air. Would Lucas step up now, awakening to the truth behind her dreams? The clock was ticking, and everything hung in the balance, awaiting the next unpredictable turn of fate. Mariah felt her heart skip a beat as the commotion intensified. Voices clashed, and blame was tossed around like confetti. She could hardly hear the words, but the anger and disdain were palpable, boiling over like a geyser ready to erupt. Each echoing argument sent ripples through the room, distracting from the very purpose of the gathering. An older gentleman with a silver beard accused a woman of trying to exploit the evening for her own gain, while a younger man defended her fiercely. It was chaos, and Mariah stood frozen, caught between wanting to shield her moment and stepping in to mediate the turmoil. But she knew this was a reckoning, a hard truth surfacing, something that needed addressing. People began to murmur about leaving, losing interest in the reason they had come. Mariah's breath hitched. She had spent countless sleepless nights perfecting her work. It wasn't just paint on a canvas, it was her lifeblood. Suddenly Lucas stepped forward. The shift in his demeanor was striking. He cleared his throat and raised his voice above the tumult. "Excuse me," he called out, commanding attention. The room hesitated, caught off guard by the billionaire's unexpected intrusion into the discord. Mariah's heart raced. This man, who had exerted so much careful control over his interactions, was now diving headfirst into discomfort. What was he thinking? Did he really intend to speak? "Everyone, please," he continued, his blue eyes sweeping across the crowd. "This night is about celebrating community, not tearing each other apart. Yes, we have different perspectives, but I believe moments like these can build bridges rather than chasms." His voice resonated, and Mariah felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. Lucas was finally recognizing the importance of unity, of her journey. "Let us focus on what brought us here tonight," he said, gesturing towards Mariah, who stood just off to the side, her heart pounding. "I want to hear from the artist who has poured her soul into this work." With a deep breath, Mariah stepped into the spotlight. The whispers turned to silence as every gaze shifted towards her. She could feel the weight of their curiosity, their skepticism, and some hope hanging in the air. But mostly, she sensed Lucas's encouragement wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "Thank you for giving me this moment," she began, her voice unwavering despite her jitters. "This piece," she paused, looking at the canvas shrouded in its covering. "It isn't just for me. It's for everyone who feels unseen, everyone fighting against shadows." As she spoke, Mariah's nerves began to dissipate. She felt a connection with Lucas, with the audience, all of them drawn together by a collective yearning for understanding and recognition. And then, with one swift motion, she pulled the drape away, revealing her artwork, a vibrant explosion of colors, chaotic yet harmonious, depicting faces of struggle, resilience, and hope. A hush fell over the room. Mariah's heart swelled with pride and fear, unsure of how they would react. But then she caught Lucas's eyes. He was beaming, something she had never witnessed from him before. It was as if he was awakening to a new realization of purpose, one that brought forth possibilities for change. Just then, the atmosphere shifted again as someone from the back of the room shouted, "What does this have to do with us?" The question hung heavily, a challenge echoing amidst the raw energy. Would Lucas respond? Would he stand beside her, continuing to challenge the tensions that had surfaced? Mariah's pulse quickened now. It was anyone's guess how this would unfold. As she awaited his reply, she felt the suffocating weight of their eyes, both excited and afraid of what came next. The night was no longer just a gallery opening. It was a pivotal moment that could change everything. Would she have the courage to see it through? Would Lucas join her in a fight for the greater good? What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was painfully clear. The truth was ready to emerge, and with it, perhaps a chance to redefine everything they knew. The room held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. All eyes were on Lucas, and Mariah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She knew he had the power to change the tide of this evening, to help her turn the chaos into something beautiful. But would he rise to the occasion? Lucas took a moment, as if weighing his words with the severity of the moment. "What does this have to do with us?" he echoed, his voice calm yet firm. "That's an important question." It's not just about one painting or one night in a gallery. It's about recognizing ourselves in the struggle, the beauty, the connection we share as a community. His gaze intensified, locking onto the man who had challenged them. Isn't that what art is for? To show us who we are beyond our differences? To ignite conversations that matter? The room buzzed, energy sparking like electricity. Mariah watched faces shift from skepticism to intrigue, the walls of defensiveness starting to crack. She felt herself daring to believe that maybe they could unite in this moment. Each face in this painting represents a story, he continued, gesturing toward Mariah's work. Stories that are often overlooked. Stories that intersect with our own in ways we might not realize. Lucas's sincerity wrapped around Mariah, filling her with warmth. She had always admired him from afar, but tonight she saw an unexpected ally rising, one willing to confront the uncomfortable truths that had defined their gathering. The crowd seemed to lean in, seeking more than just words. Lucas spoke with conviction, a passionate wind sweeping through the room. It's time we reflect on our own shadows. This piece, Mariah's journey, is about more than just individual pain. It's about community healing. Mariah sensed a shift in the atmosphere, the voices of dissent quieting. Some in the crowd shifted, murmuring softly among themselves. Healing, they whispered it like a prayer, as if the notion were dawning on them for the first time. Let us be honest, Lucas pressed. We've all felt lost at times, unsure of where we belong or how we can make a difference. But we're not alone. We're standing here tonight together, and that means we have a chance to be better. Tension ebbed, replaced by something hopeful. Mariah took a step closer, allowing herself to feel what they all were beginning to. She hadn't just poured her heart into this painting. She had opened a door to something transformative. Then suddenly, a woman spoke up from the back. I lost my job, my home. I thought no one would understand. She trembled slightly, voicing what many held inside. But if there's a way forward, I want to find it. Yes. Another person chimed in, their hands clenched in determination. We can't keep blaming each other. We can create opportunities. The ripple effect was immediate, voices rising in unity as others echoed her sentiments, each story uniting them. Mariah's heart raced with hope, the realization settling in that their collective strength was beginning to rise. As conversation bloomed, Mariah took a deep breath, allowing herself to bask in the moment. She could hardly believe how quickly the energy had shifted, how the night had transformed from chaos to connection. Lucas stood by her side, smiling encouragingly as their audience engaged, sharing their own challenges and dreams. But just as she felt safe in the warmth of this newfound unity, a deep voice broke through. This is great, but how do we actually change things? A man in a dark suit stepped forward, his brow furrowed with doubt. Words are nice, but we need action. Real change. The room fell silent again, the truth hanging heavy in the air. Would their moment of solidarity lead anywhere meaningful? As Mariah glanced at Lucas, she could see the wheels turning in his mind. Did he realize the weight of responsibility on their shoulders? In that moment, the question wasn't simply how they would address past grievances, but how they would forge a path forward together. The stakes had never felt higher, and the night felt like it was teetering on the precipice of something monumental. In the face of growing uncertainty, Mariah felt a renewed surge of determination. What would they decide to do next? Could this fragile moment lead to lasting change, or would they, once again, let the fear of stepping forward pull them back? Then, amidst the uncertain silence, Lucas opened his mouth again. I have an idea, and just like that, the next chapter of their journey was poised to start, filled with possibilities and a flickering hope for transformation that hung in the balance. Let us form a committee, Lucas proposed, his voice cutting through the tension like a well-aimed arrow. We can share our stories and come up with real, actionable steps to spark change in our community. A ripple of surprise coursed through the room. Mariah couldn't believe her ears. It was one thing to inspire, quite another to mobilize. Her heart quickened, excitement intertwining with trepidation. She glanced at Lucas, who seemed unwavering. There was an unfamiliar fire in his eyes, and it pushed her action-oriented spirit to the surface. The man in the dark suit raised an eyebrow, still skeptical. "A committee? What makes you think that will actually work? We've tried before, and nothing changed." Lucas remained calm, unfazed by the doubter's words. "We've tried in the past, sure. But this time it's different. We all know what is at stake. We've shared our battles tonight. Let us harness that shared energy." Mariah felt the energy in the room change again. The initial hesitation splintered, and she could sense that Lucas's conviction was spreading. People began whispering ideas, sparks of possibility igniting the previously stagnant atmosphere. "What if we organize workshops?" a woman called out. "For skills development? We can help each other." "Yes. And we need an art show, not just to display work, but as a fundraiser." Another voice piped up, enthusiasm evident. Mariah looked around, watching the faces light up with ambition. Her heart swelled. They weren't just spectators anymore. They were beginning to imagine a new narrative together. "Exactly," Lucas said, his excitement palpable. "We can use our talents, whatever they are, to create something beautiful. Art is only one part of it. Let us amplify every voice in this room." One by one, hands shot up. Ideas rushed forth, each one building on the last, a kaleidoscope of plans and offers to lend a hand. Mariah couldn't help but smile, overwhelmed by the sheer possibilities unfolding before her. People distributed tasks. Someone volunteered to reach out to local businesses for support, while another scribbled notes, documenting the meeting on the flip chart that had remained untouched until this point. The transformation from confusion to direction felt almost magical, anchoring her to this moment. And then the room came alive. Mariah's hope soared as she caught sight of the woman who had shared her job loss, now jotting down notes, fervently. Their fears were morphing into unity, their voices tangled in a newfound camaraderie. She thought of the painting hanging behind them. It was more than a collection of colors and shapes. It had become a mirror reflecting their shared struggles, an emblem of their potential to enact real change. As the excitement crescendoed, she noticed Lucas stand slightly apart, observing. There was a softness in his features. Mariah admired him in that moment, not just for his bravery, but for being authentic. He wasn't pushing his own agenda. He was genuinely interested in what everyone had to say. But just as hope surged like a tide, a low rumble rolled through the crowd, this time an undercurrent of doubt. "What if we fail?" A young man's voice cut through the chatter. His question lurked beneath the surface, pulling at the edges of their momentum. "Fear of failure won't stop us," Mariah said suddenly, surprised at her own boldness. "What matters is that we try together. Together, we are stronger than our doubts." The room quieted again, embers glowing as doubt wrestled with resolve. Her heart pounded. She meant every word. They weren't just a building made of bricks. They were flesh and spirit, full of dreams. Lucas caught her eye, and the warmth that flared there told her they were on the same page. This was the beginning, yes, but it was also a challenge. "Let us meet again next week," Lucas suggested, his voice steady as the crowd slowly nodded, confidence beginning to wrestle with uncertainty. As the gathering began to disperse, Mariah felt a heaviness settle in her chest. They had kicked down the door, but the path forward was still cloaked in shadows. How would they navigate those shadows without losing sight of their light? Questions lingered, and just as Mariah stepped outside into the night, she realized this was just the tip of a long journey. What awaited them was often uncertain, but the fire they ignited tonight made her believe they could light the way. With resolute determination, she asked herself, What fresh struggles would they encounter next? Could their words and dreams translate into lasting change? Mariah walked through the chilled air, the night wrapping around her like a heavy quilt. She could still hear the echo of voices behind her, the energy of that room still swirling in her mind. Each idea shared, each hopeful heart, had painted an afternoon that felt historic in its potential. Yet, doubt gnawed at the edges of her thoughts. Would this new venture dissolve into nothing, just like so many initiatives before? As she strolled through the dimly lit streets, the sounds of the community surrounded her. The hum of cars, distant laughter, and the faint music drifting from a nearby bar felt strangely reassuring. She wanted to capture that warmth and bring it into the committee meeting next week. They needed that sense of connection, that feeling of belonging. Feeling restless, she paused beneath a flickering streetlight. Drawing connections, she murmured to herself, wondering how she could do that. The idea of the art show kept resurfacing in her mind. It wouldn't just be a fundraiser. It could be a celebration of their collective resilience. Artwork could narrate stories that sometimes got lost in the noise of everyday life. Mariah's fingers grazed the canvas of her own emotions. She had always been shy about sharing her art, afraid it wouldn't resonate with people. But tonight, she felt different. Maybe it was time she stepped out from her own shadows. Just then, a shadow approached her from the dark. Mariah's heart raced as she turned, ready to retreat, but it was Lucas. His presence offered a sense of comfort against the nighttime chill. "Hey," he said, his breath visible in the cold. "I was thinking about that meeting. I really believe in what we can do together." Mariah smiled, feeling grateful. "I do too. I keep wondering how we can keep the energy alive. I don't want this to be a flash in the pan." Lucas nodded, his brow furrowing slightly. "Me neither. What do you think the biggest challenge will be?" She took a deep breath, the weight of their previous lives sitting square on her shoulders. "Staying motivated. Fear of failure. She hesitated. "We need to ensure we don't lose our way when setbacks come. They will come, you know." A silence settled between them, the world quieting down as if it held its breath. Lucas gazed at her, something unspoken lingering in his steady eyes. "You're right. But I think we can lean on one another. If we make this about friendship and community, not just goals, we might just make it." Mariah felt a warmth bloom inside her. It wasn't just about the art. It was about the ties they formed. "You're right," she agreed, her voice filled with a newfound strength. "If we support each other openly, fear can't win." For a moment, they stood together, letting that promise hang in the air, the light of the street lamp casting a soft glow around them. In that moment, she thought of all the stories they still had to share, every ounce of struggle they could turn into strength. But just as she felt the weight lift, Lucas's expression shifted. "You know," he began slowly, "what if we also reached out to the people who've been silent? There are so many voices in our community that haven't been heard." His words hit her like a thunderbolt. "Exactly. We can host an open forum, invite everyone in, even those who might feel unwelcomed." Lucas's excitement mirrored her own, and together they crafted an ambitious vision for the week ahead. But as they plotted, a shadow of dread coiled around Mariah's heart. Could they truly stretch the net wide enough to capture those hidden voices? As they parted ways, she felt a flicker of anxiety replace the thrill of possibility. What if the attempts to include others only deepened divisions? Would she risk her heart on something that might not succeed? Mariah stepped into the quiet of her home, emotions swirling through her like storm clouds. Burdened yet hopeful, she wondered about the power of change. Could they really bring the community together in a way that transcended the past betrayals? The question lingered in her mind as she prepared for the days ahead. More than just planning, it was about forging connections, but was she brave enough to invite others into her world? How would they embrace that challenge? What awaited her was still hidden in the fog of tomorrow. Mariah woke the next morning with a heaviness in her chest. The sunlight streamed through her curtains, and for a brief moment she felt the warmth chase away her doubts. But as she lay there, the weight of the upcoming meeting loomed like a dark cloud. What if her ideas didn't resonate? What if the community wasn't ready? She shook off the negativity and pulled herself out of bed, determined to make a difference. Today was about finding strength in vulnerability. As she brewed her coffee, she thought about the stories that needed to be shared. Each voice could add a piece to the tapestry of their community, and she was excited to weave those threads together. After breakfast, she grabbed her sketchbook and headed to a local park. The familiar fountain bubbled nearby, children giggled, and the air smelled like fresh grass and baked goods from a nearby cafe. As she settled onto a bench, she flipped through her sketches. Each drawing held a piece of her heart, reflecting the struggles and joys of life around her. Perhaps sharing these would help others feel less alone. She closed her eyes for a moment, imagining the faces of the people who might wander into their forum. Familiar faces, still hoping for change. She wanted her art to spark conversations, to fuel ideas. They deserved to be heard, to be humanized. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of laughter nearby. Turning, she saw a group of children running, their carefree energy infectious. It ignited a flicker of inspiration in her heart. She could visualize a place where adults could tap into that freedom as well, where voices could merge into a beautiful symphony of shared experiences. Just then, Lucas appeared, his footsteps resonating softly on the damp grass. "Hey! Thought I'd find you here." He smiled, settling beside her. "What is on your mind?" "I'm thinking about our forum," Mariah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if no one shows up? Or worse, what if they don't feel okay to share?" Lucas rested a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've got to believe that they will." His eyes sparkled with determination. "You're already creating a space and art show that is about them. As long as they know they're welcome, they'll come." As he spoke, the images of comfortable conversation flooded her mind, people opening up like flowers in spring. "You're right," she said, a spark of hope igniting. "It's all about connection, that's what we need." Inspired, she pulled out her notebook and started jotting down ideas. What if they incorporated community feedback? Art installations showcasing individual stories. She could display personal artworks from community members, showing resilience in their struggles. Lucas watched her scribble, his admiration evident. What about a live art creation? Something that evolves throughout the forum? It'll draw people in. Yes. They can contribute as they come. An evolving mural, everyone paints a section. She explained, the ideas flowing freely now. But then, as excitement filled her, another worry slipped in. What if someone's story is too painful or uncomfortable? Am I ready to hear that? The thought felt like a chill running down her spine. Lucas shook his head. We can't shy away from real, raw emotions. That's where healing begins. They stayed at the park for hours, bouncing around ideas, sketching out plans, and slowly easing Mariah's lingering fears. They envisioned the forum not just as an event, but as a movement, a chance for rebirth, a way to turn past wounds into art, into dialogue. As they packed up, Mariah felt a renewed sense of purpose. Every step they took felt like another foot in the ground of change. But as they left the park, that same shadow of doubt nagged at her. Could they truly create the space that people needed? That night, while she prepared for the meeting, her heart raced again with uncertainty. But beneath it all, lingering like the last rays of sunset, was a profound hope. Mariah stared out the window, watching the streetlights flicker to life, illuminating the night. What if this really could be a turning point? She whispered to herself. Her answer would come soon enough, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was just beyond the horizon. Could she find the courage to lead, to embrace the messiness of other stories? Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. Mariah woke early the next morning, the anticipation buzzing in her veins. It was the day. She could already hear the distant hum of the city waking up around her. Each car horn, each chirping bird, felt like a signal to gather her courage. Today was not just about her. It was about each soul whose voice needed to emerge. After showering, she put on her favorite denim jacket. It made her feel grounded. Staring into the mirror, she took a deep breath. "You can do this," she whispered. Her reflection smiled back, pushing away the doubts that lingered near the edges of her mind. With her sketchbook in hand, she headed to the community center where the forum would take place. The walls were still bare, awaiting the vibrant colors of stories shared. Each step felt heavy yet invigorating, the air thick with tension but also possibility. Mariah imagined laughter filling the space. She pictured voices, both timid and bold, transforming the room into a tapestry of emotion. As she entered, Lucas was already there, setting up chairs in a half-circle. "Hey!" he called, his face brightening the dim room. "Look at all this space. It's perfect." Mariah couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. "Yeah, but we still need the magic to happen," she replied, trying to shake off the flutters of anxiety. Lucas nodded, a look of understanding crossing his features. "Then let us create that magic. Remember, this is just as much about them as it is about us." They spent the morning hanging colorful banners that Lucas had brought, each one bearing words like home, strength, and courage, thoughts that resonated like a heartbeat. As they worked, the reality of what they were about to undertake pressed against Mariah's chest. The prospect of emotional vulnerability loomed larger than life, each word on the paper echoing her own fears. Just then, a small group of locals began to trickle in, faces familiar but shy. Mariah's heart thumped in response. "Hey, everyone! Welcome!" she called out, her voice stronger than she felt. Some nodded, a few answered back with tentative smiles, but most seemed cautious, unsure of stepping into the unknown space Mariah had created. Lucas joined her side, noticing the hesitant group. "You got this. They're here to connect, just like you," he whispered. Mariah looked at each face, feeling their hope and anxiety. "Let us remember," she began, her voice steadying. "Every story matters. Share what you love, what scares you, and let's paint this place together with our experiences. You are safe here." The room fell silent momentarily, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Then, an elderly woman at the edge of the group spoke up. "I haven't shared my story in years." Her voice trembled, yet the sincerity struck the heart of every listener. More people began to settle, finding their place. Mariah felt a shift in energy, a magnetic pull away from doubt and towards connection. They weren't here just to listen. They were here to participate. As conversation flowed, Mariah shared her sketches, each image a reflection of dreams and struggles. People gathered closer, eyes wide with curiosity. One by one, the guarded souls began to share their stories. Laughter mixed with tears, sadness morphed into strength. Mariah watched in awe as emotions unfolded, raw and beautiful. For a moment, it felt like the world had contracted to just them, like nothing could break the magic they were creating together. But then, the door swung open unexpectedly, revealing a stranger, a girl with wide, fearful eyes. She hesitated at the threshold, and all the warmth they had built inside seemed to waver for just an instant. "Can I join?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mariah's heart raced. This was a turning point. She felt the weight of all the stories waiting to be told. "Absolutely," Mariah replied, reaching out her hand, inviting this new soul into the fold. The girl's gaze flickered with hope, and in that moment, Mariah knew This was the beginning of something transformative. As more joined in, the fear leading up to this day faded, replaced with a vibrant energy of shared stories. They were weaving a community together, one word at a time. But just as the atmosphere grew lighter, a question lingered in Mariah's mind. What would happen if their stories unveiled hidden truths, emotions too hard to bear? Could they face the shadows together, wherever it might lead? The deeper journey was just beginning, and she clung to hope as the forum surged forward, unraveling its own mysteries in real time. What chapters would unfold next? The girl stepped into the room, a hesitant smile breaking through her anxious expression. She took a seat at the edge of the half-circle, her fingers nervously fidgeting with the hem of her hoodie. Mariah felt a surge of empathy. She had once been just like this girl, terrified of being seen, afraid of sharing her voice. "Welcome," Mariah said, her voice soothing as soft sunlight. "We're all here to share a bit of who we are. You're safe with us." The reassurance was just for the girl. It was for everyone present, each heart in the room yearning for connection. As the group shifted from one story to another, Mariah caught snippets of life that filled the space with raw emotion. An overworked single parent spoke about juggling multiple jobs while raising 2 kids, their laughter echoing through the room as they reminisced about the chaos of family life. Another voice, a man who had lost his job due to downsizing, shared his journey of rediscovering his self-worth in the face of adversity. There was a rhythm to their words, a pulse that turned their suffering into strength. Then it was time for the new girl to speak. Mariah's stomach twisted in anticipation. Would she find the courage to let her voice shine? The girl looked around, the spark of determination igniting in her eyes, and Mariah felt everyone lean in, silently urging her to continue. My name is Lena," she stammered, her voice soft but getting stronger with every word. I grew up feeling different. You know, not really belonging anywhere. I guess I just want to know how to be okay with that." Tears brimmed in her eyes, and it felt like the whole room held its breath. Mariah reached for her sketchbook, flipping to an empty page and swiftly sketching. Lena's voice resonated with truth, and Mariah wanted to capture that moment. The others remained still, listening intently, knowing that sometimes just being heard was the greatest gift. "I grew up in a small town where everyone was supposed to fit into neat little boxes." "I never did," Lena continued, her gaze dropping to her lap. "I don't want to hide anymore. I want to find my place." Loud sniffles broke the silence. Someone was crying. Mariah looked up to see a woman in her 50s, tears streaming down her face. "I know that feeling all too well," she said, her voice strong yet braided with heartache. "You belong here, Lena." Suddenly, the room was alive, a cacophony of personal truths spilling out. People began sharing stories of feeling out of place, of not fitting in, creating a bond that was deep and palpable. Mariah felt her heart swell with a mix of pride and compassion. But as the moment held, a shadow flickered across the doorway again. This time, it was a man in his late 30s with weary eyes. Was he here to join or to disrupt? Everyone in the room felt the tension, the air thickening with his presence. "Sorry to intrude," he said, shifting his weight nervously. "I saw the sign outside and I thought maybe I could share too." His voice shook slightly, but beneath the surface, there was a muted desperation. Mariah looked at Lucas. It was clear that they were at another crossroads. There was hope in this man's eyes, but there was also something else, something heavy that could change the atmosphere. "Absolutely," Mariah encouraged, her voice steady. "Please step forward." Would he share a story that brought light or darkness? As he moved into the center of the circle, Mariah felt an unsettling flutter in her stomach. They were on the brink of another revelation, and she couldn't shake the sensation that the room was about to be tested. What truth would he unveil? Would it bring them closer together, or shake the foundation of what they had built? The man hesitated, glancing around the room as if searching for the right words. His shoulders were slumped, the weight of his past evident in the tightness of his jaw. With a shaky breath, he began, "My name is David." The group remained quiet, but there was an urgency in the air, a shared understanding that his story was about to unfold. David's eyes darted to Lena, still somewhat red-eyed but emboldened by the warmth the room had shown her. "I've had a rough couple of years," he continued, his voice faltering slightly. "Lost my job, lost my home, and for a while, I lost myself in the process." Mariah could feel the tension shift, the stillness almost tangible. She instinctively drew her pencil closer, ready to capture the raw emotion that lined David's face. "I never thought I'd end up here," he admitted, his words coming quicker now, fueled by adrenaline or fear. "I always had this idea that I was successful, the man with a good job, a nice car, and a family who depended on me." He paused, the ache in his voice settling in. "But when the bottom fell out, it felt like everything I built suddenly became meaningless." Somewhere in the circle, a man spoke up softly, "You're not alone in this, David." David looked up, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I took that loss hard. I started drinking. I lost touch with friends and family. It was like I was walking through a fog. And then, just a couple of months ago, everything hit rock bottom." "What happened?" Lena's voice was hesitant but laced with compassion. David took a steady breath. "I found myself sitting alone in my car one night, feeling like I had nothing left. I thought about ending it all. Just giving up." But his breath hitched. Something stopped me. That urge, that moment of despair transformed into a longing for connection, a craving for understanding. Mariah felt her heart race. Here they were, all of them, wrapped in their own battles and wounds. And here was David, laying bare his soul as they all leaned in, wrapped in his fragile honesty. So I drove. I didn't know where I was going, but somehow, I ended up at this community center. I saw the sign for support groups, and thought maybe I could just listen. His gaze wandered around the room, meeting the eyes of each person. "I didn't think it would help me, but I sat in the back and listened to you all share your stories. I thought if they could be brave enough to share their pain, maybe I could too." The room held his words like a precious secret. Mariah glanced at Lucas. This moment, punctured with pain and resilience, felt like a transformation. David continued, "And I realized that it's not just about fitting in. It's about being seen, being heard, and knowing you're not alone in the darkness. I came here tonight because I want to learn how to fight my way back. I want to reclaim the man I used to be." As the weight of his confession cascaded over everyone present, a ripple of quiet understanding moved through the circle. Mariah felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. What layers of hurt had they all carried? It was profound to see how sharing one's truth could shimmer like a light piercing through the thickest fog. Suddenly, a woman near the front spoke, her voice trembling as she asked, "How do you plan to start?" David's eyes met hers, and for a moment, silence enveloped them until he smiled gently. "I think it starts with all of you." At that instant, Mariah felt hope bloom, like a wildflower in the cracks of their shared struggles. But then she noticed something. Lena's expression had shifted from empathy to confusion. "What do you mean, David?" she asked, her curious gaze searching his. David stepped slightly closer, the air thickening again. "I mean, you all have a story too. We share an unspoken bond, but we just have to be brave enough to explore it together." Mariah's heart raced. What next steps would they take in this shared journey of healing? What secrets would come tumbling out as they explored each other's depths? The room hung heavy with anticipation, the stories intertwining like threads woven together in a vibrant tapestry. Mariah could feel the pulse of something profound happening before her eyes. David's raw honesty had bridged barriers, igniting a spark of courage in the hearts of those gathered. Together, he continued, his voice gaining strength, We can reclaim our narratives. We can support each other, lift each other up. Mariah caught a glimpse of Lena, who nodded slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. "I want to do that," she whispered. "But I don't know how." The invitation hung in the air. The challenge of vulnerability lingered yet transformed into a challenge accepted. Lucas stepped forward beside Mariah, channeling an energy that filled the room with warmth. "Let us break this down," he suggested, his voice calm yet resolute. "How can we support each other? What do we need to truly heal?" The group leaned in, eyes bright with hope and determination. One by one, voices began to rise, a symphony of shared dreams emerging from the web of pain. Ideas sparked and ignited, becoming tangible plans. "We can create a mentorship program," proposed a woman with passion radiating from her words. "Pairing those who've overcome struggles with those currently facing them." "Exactly. We could meet regularly, share resources, maybe host workshops." Another voice chimed in, enthusiasm filling her tone. Mariah felt her heart swell, excitement bubbling. This was community, this was connection. It wasn't just about art or words. It was about lives intertwining, destinies merging. "What if we organize community events?" Lena offered, her newfound confidence lighting up her features. "Open mic nights to share our stories, to connect through creativity? We could even showcase artwork that celebrates our struggles." Cheers erupted throughout the gathering, a collective river of light flowing through each idea shared. Mariah's spirit soared. She could picture the laughter, the art, the voices echoing through the community. "Let us not just talk about change. Let us become the change," David added, a fire glinting in his eyes. "We can create a group that reaches beyond this room, spreading this spirit of togetherness." Mariah sensed the shift in the atmosphere. This was more than a meeting. It was a powerful wave of transformation, building momentum that couldn't be stopped. As each plan took shape, she felt an urge to seize the moment. Stepping forward, she took a deep breath, heart racing. "How about we start by telling the stories behind our artwork?" she suggested. "Let us share where we've been and where we're going, allowing everyone to paint their emotions into the conversation." The room erupted in nods and murmurs of agreement. This wasn't just a surface change. They were confronting the powerful emotions that had once kept them hidden. Lena spoke again, her voice trembling with emotion but steadfast. "Art has always been my refuge. But tonight, I feel safe to share more than just art. I can share my journey too." With each one stepping up, stories flowed, finally freeing the emotions that had been trapped for too long. They shared laughter and tears, each moment stitching them closer together. And then David, who had begun to shift with his own raw truth, stood up again. "Let us continue holding each other accountable. Meeting regularly, not just for sharing but for teamwork. We can create something lasting." The energy in the room buzzed, the foundations of their newfound community lying firmly in authentic relationships. Mariah watched, her heart brimming with gratitude. She turned to Lucas, sharing a knowing glance rich with unspoken promise. They had ignited hope, not only for themselves, but also for those who were unseen. As the meeting drew to a close, they collectively decided on a date for their first community event, a celebration of resilience and creativity. With every pact made, stories eager to be shared, a bond was stitched that would hold them through fear and uncertainty. Outside, the world felt brighter. Stepping back into the crisp night, the moon hung heavy, illuminating their path ahead. Mariah could feel that the night was just a new beginning, a chapter filled with potential etched ahead of them. With joy radiating from the very core of her being, Mariah turned to Lucas. "We can really make a difference," she murmured, the weight of her journey transforming into the promise of what lay ahead. "Yes," he replied, his eyes glimmering. "Together, we are unstoppable." In that moment, they were more than individuals. They were a community poised for transformation, a tapestry of hope, dreams, and renewed strength. As she walked home under the twinkling stars, Mariah embraced the exhilaration of the night. This is how change happens, she thought. With a single story, just like hers, igniting the flame of 1,000 more. If you haven't done so yet, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories of hope and transformation. Leave a like right away to feed the algorithm and help us spread this message even further. Comment below with your reactions and the feelings you have about this inspiring ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation happen. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans like you understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Thank you for being part of this journey.